This is a homemade AR-15. Before I fired it, I saw it being put together. It's known as a ghost gun because it doesn't have a serial number and is impossible to trace. These weapons are easier than ever to make nowadays because technology is evolving faster than regulation, and some companies are cashing in.
It's not an exaggeration to suggest that these companies have blood on their hands.
We visited a business in Austin, Texas that helps people make their own ghost guns, and we learned why they've become so popular and so controversial. Cody Wilson is the head of Defense Distributed.
I'm helping spread guns all over the internet.
The company offers hundreds of digital files of gun parts that anyone in the country can download and 3D print. The most popular 3D printed gun is the FGC-9, which stands for F-Gun Control. Cody's team showed us how the pieces can be assembled in just 10 to 15 minutes.
If you print everything correctly, there shouldn't be any issues. It's cool to know that you made it. And when it holds up, you're proud.
These homemade weapons can't be traced.
There aren't numbers anywhere. There aren't serial numbers. There's no...
You make a handgun or a long gun for your own use. There's no requirement to put a number on it.
That's because the only part of a firearm that federal law requires to have a serial number is called the receiver. It holds the pieces that allow the gun to shoot.
And it just fits in right here.
But there's something called an 80% receiver. That means it's unfinished, and because of that, it doesn't require a serial number. Cody's company is using that loophole to sell a machine called the Ghost Gunner. It turns an 80% receiver into a finished one in roughly half an hour. You can then attach that to other gun parts that you 3D print or buy to make a fully functional firearm.
To install these parts and build it out from, this milled piece to this completed system takes me about 25, 30 minutes if I'm taking my time. But again, I've done a couple of these. Your average person doing it for the very first time could take up to an hour. But it's not difficult with the right tutorial video and instructions.
I would say, realistically, 25, 30,000 ARs exist because of this class of machines.
Each day, boxes of Ghost Gunner machines are getting shipped across the country.
So Minnesota, Washington, California, Massachusetts, Illinois, Colorado.
I like that. A healthy representation
all
of,
across the map.
of blue states. Why do they want these gun machines so much?
Interesting, yeah.
Naughty people.
So how long would the wait be right now if I were to order one today?
You're waiting 4 months, and that's not something that these people want to hear.
Between 2015 and 2020, the number of online sellers of ghost gun parts more than tripled.
Anybody, whether it's a minor, whether it's someone with a lengthy criminal record, if you got a computer and if you have an internet connection and a credit card, you can get these shipped to your door, no questions asked.
Federal law bans some people from buying guns, like those who are underage, convicted of certain crimes, or subject to specific court orders. Cody himself is currently serving probation in Texas after facing sexual assault charges in 2018. If he had been convicted, he wouldn't be allowed to own firearms under state or federal law. But because he agreed to a form of probation where the judge holds off on finding him guilty, he can still own them. None of this even matters when it comes to ghost guns, though, because they aren't considered firearms under state or federal law.
Our space exists in that gray world. It's not in the law. It's before the law right now. It's this kind of Wild West.
And there's really no way of stopping anyone from getting their hands on one.
Do you feel responsibility for vetting the people who, want the Ghost Gunner?
Yeah, to some degree I do.
What kinds of things do you look for? What are sort of the red flags?
Well, you look at names. How new is this email address? What's the area code of this phone number? Is the billing address close to the shipping address? Is this connected to something organized? Is this a private individual?
And you guys do that with every person who buys something from you guys?
No, certainly not. There's so much commerce here that you're not going to do that for every single person. And the alternative, a scenario where every customer is then held hostage by me after they purchase, it's not a commercial scenario.
In May, the Justice Department proposed a rule that would require serial numbers on ghost gun receivers, as well as background checks on those looking to buy them. Congress introduced a similar bill that would subject ghost guns to the same regulations as other firearms. But even if the legislation passes, it would be impossible to trace all the ones that are already out there, including these that Cody's team let us try out on the range.
So go ahead and lean forward. I'm gonna take your safety off for you.
Okay.
Now you can put your finger on the trigger and you can fire whenever you're ready.
Wow.
If I had just shown up and walked up here, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that that was printed and that part was like, I would have fired them and it would have all felt the same.
We asked the NRA what their stance is on ghost guns. They said people have made their own firearms since before the country was founded, and that there is no valid reason any law-abiding person should be barred from possessing them. But gun control advocates say that these weapons are being used more and more in crimes. In November 2019, a 16-year-old shot 5 of his classmates at Saugus High School in California using a homemade pistol.
The shooter was another high school student who used the ghost gun and was able to get a ghost gun from his father, who was a prohibited purchaser of firearms.
2 of the students who were shot died. Their fathers are now suing the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives for failing to regulate the ghost gun industry.
It terrifies me to think that my kids could be victims in the same way that my clients' kids were victims at Saugus High School.
The Giffords Law Center is involved in the same lawsuit, which claims that ghost guns are quickly becoming the weapon of choice for illegal gun traffickers and for those looking to engage in criminal activity and acts of violence.
There are irresponsible individuals and companies that are making money off exploiting some mistakes by ATF to allow this to happen, to make money at the cost of American lives.
Do you think it would change you at all or change your stance at all if somebody who maybe you loved or cared about was a victim in one of those events?
I do think, the right person, the right scenario could change some of my thinking. But I've said that for years, and it hasn't happened.
Since its start in 2012, Defense Distributed has been entangled in legal battles with the government. The U.S. State Department settled with the company in 2018 and allowed it to continue operating. But over 20 state attorneys general challenged that verdict, and legal cases are still ongoing. Until something changes, Cody says the ghost gun industry will carry on.
In fact, I don't want people to die, right? Turns out that that's true. I'm not just in it for the gore and the violence, okay? But I still think I will only do the minimum required by law and no more.